how procuring even the mere thought of financial success opens your eyes to the darkness of the world. Today we're going to be talking about a book written by one of my favorite authors, John Steinbeck. Today we're talking about The Pearl. John Steinbeck is hands down probably one of my favorite writers. I came to this conclusion after reading the book East of Eden. So it was a no-brainer to pick this little short story up when I was at the used bookstore the other day. Now, I read this book in one sitting just because it's little. It's only about 118 pages. And John Steinbeck has the ability to keep you grasped and intrigued into his stories. He's a real page-turner. So the story of The Pearl, although it never really fully states where it takes place, people speculate that it takes place in Mexico in the early 1900s. So this book follows three main characters, that being the husband, Kino, the wife, Joanna, and the son, Coyotito. They're a family that live in this community of huts of fishermen that spend their days going out into the water, and they tie a rock around their waist and submerge themselves to the bottom, and they search for pearls. So early on in the book, we bump into the first problem. Kino and Joanna are cooking breakfast, and they don't really talk too much, but they're just enjoying their morning when they look and see in this hanging basket that Coyotito is laying in, coming down the rope is a scorpion. Kino reaches to stop this scorpion from getting to his son, but Coyotito knocks it into the hanging basket with him, and it stings him on the shoulder. Immediately, Joanna grabs the baby and tries to suck the venom out of the shoulder, because it is known in this village that these scorpions can make a grown man very, very ill. So for babies, it could be a death sentence. The community begins to gather around the hut and see what's going on, and Joanna requests somebody to go get the doctor. But these people are poor, and they know that the doctor will not come to them. So they make their way to the city. They call the city of stone and plaster. This is typical of a John Steinbeck book to emphasize the class inequalities. In East of Eden, he shows how the Hamiltons are a poor family and the Trasks are a well-off family. But there's a little bit deeper meaning in that, because if you go to the East of Eden, the Hamiltons are happy, fulfilled, but they're poor. And the Trasks have money, but they're just empty inside, and they're looking for love. But you would have to read that book to get into that. That's for another video. So they get to the doctor's house, and they're banging on the gate, and a servant comes out and asks what they want. And they said, "We need the doctor. Our baby was stung by a scorpion." So the servant goes in, talks to the doctor. The doctor now looks at these native peoples as subhuman, and he could not be bothered with them. So he tells the guy to go out and ask for if they have payment. And the servant goes out, asks, "Do you guys have payment?" Obviously they don't. They're super poor. And they say, "No, we don't have payment." And therefore the servant says, "Sorry, the doctor's not home." This is where it begins to get interesting. Kino and the family, they go out and get on their canoe, and they hit the water and start searching for pearls. And lo and behold, Kino finds the pearl of a lifetime. So he comes to the surface, jumps in the boat. Him and his wife are super excited. At the same time that they find this pearl, the wife takes a notice that the swelling in the baby's arm from the scorpion sting is going down. So life is looking great right now. Word travels quickly about this great finding and this great fortune. And not to spoil the whole book, but at one point, the doctor comes back and tries to act like he didn't know they had the pearl, and he helps the baby by inducing some vomiting and saying in an hour he's going to vomit, and I'm going to come back and have to save it because the scorpion, even though the baby is better, he's manipulating and taking advantage of the fact that Kino and his wife are uneducated. And that's one thing that Kino says when he finds the pearl. He says the thing he wants to do with the pearl first, when he sells it and gets the money in it for it, is he wants to marry Joanna, and he wants to send Coyotito to school so he could read and write. And this is a theme throughout the whole book of the uneducated being taken advantage of by the educated, by the people in the stone and plaster city, they call it. And it's really just the dividing line between poverty and wealth. Even when Kino goes to sell the pearl to these these buyers who everybody thinks they're separate buyers, that these people all have their own interests and there's competition. It's really all funneling to one man. It's all an illusion. Something that John Steinbeck introduces into the story early on, and you see it throughout the whole story. It's a constant. It's called the song. And when Kino first wakes up very early on in the book, he hears the waves. He hears nature. And he says that that's a song of his people. That's a song that's been around forever. So you're just like, oh, it's the nature sounds. But then he steps outside, and he talks about the song that's behind him still inside, and that's his wife grinding up the corn to make corn cakes, and just the sound of the fire crackling. And he correlates that with warmth and just love and stability. So early on, I was kind of confused on what was John Steinbeck trying to get across with this song, so to say, because you see this reoccur constantly. And when he finds the pearl has a song that is playing. It's a song of hope, and it's a song of fortune. And that very quickly changes as the story goes on. It goes from a song of beauty to pure evil, just sinister music. It's later on in the book that I make the correlation that I believe, this is what I'm taking from the book, I believe the song is the emotions, is the energy of the world around Kino. So when he finds that pearl, there's an energy coming from it that's the feeling he's feeling inside is hope when he first finds it. And then when there's conflicts throughout the book where he has to get violent, when the scorpion bites Coyotito, he says the scorpion is playing evil music. And that there's evil music playing in his ears when he kills a scorpion. So how I'm perceiving it as is it's just pure emotions and feelings. That's the song. So I think it's just a device that John Steinbeck was using to give a constant and to give a physical characteristic to feelings and emotions. Now there's two separate sections I want to talk about in this, and I'm going to read straight from the book. After Kino finds this pearl, the whole village gathers around his house, and he starts talking about the plans he's going to do with the money from this pearl. And John Steinbeck writes something that I thought was pretty beautiful here. He said, but now by saying what his future was going to be like, he had created it. A plan is a real thing, and things projected are experienced. A plan once made and visualized becomes a reality along with other realities, never to be destroyed, but easily to be attacked. As you read, you start to get a sense of Kino becoming stressed. Immediately after finding this pearl, obviously excitement's high, so he starts saying, I'm going to send my son to school. We're going to get married. But as that starts to settle and all the excitement disappears, Kino's left with stress. He's left with uncertainty. He doesn't know how much the pearl's going to sell for, and a thing that stresses him out the most is he's afraid at being uneducated that when he goes to these buyers of the pearls, they could say whatever number they want, and he doesn't know a way to retaliate or to barter with them. Say the pearl he believes is worth 50,000 pesos is what he says. But these buyers say this is useless. It's too big of a pearl. If you look, it's cloudy, and they start lying to him, and he feels that he's being tricked. He's being played. So casting those big ideas and those big plans out into the world causes him a lot of stress because he feels he needs to make them come true. I love the way Steinbeck put that a plan is a reality. It's something that we've experienced. If you could think it up here, you've experienced it. Yeah, that's just why I love Steinbeck. Another thing I want to talk about is Kino talks about, after he finds a pearl, how quickly the information spreads throughout the town. And John Steinbeck has a great way of putting it on how information flows throughout a small town and how small towns operate. I'm going to read right from the book again. It is wonderful the way a little town keeps track of itself and of all its units. If every single man and woman, child and baby acts and conducts itself in a known pattern and breaks no walls and differs with no one and experiments in no way and is not sick and does not endanger the ease and peace of mind or steady unbroken flow of the town, then that unit can disappear and never be heard of. And then this is where it gets good. But let one man step out of the regular thought or the known and trusted pattern, and the nerves of the town people ring with nervousness, and communication travels over the nerve lines of the town. Then every unit communicates to the whole. As somebody who grew up in a relatively smaller town, let me just tell you, this is beyond true. If your views or your desires of the outcome of life you want differ from the mass of the people around you, you become the ultimate target to criticism and hate. When people don't understand it or it scares them, your ideas or your goals or your beliefs, they immediately try to invalidate it, to make it sound like you're losing your mind or that's a dumb goal to have. They try to dumb it down so they can understand it and they can compartmentalize it. And instead of trying to broaden and think why somebody might think this way, they immediately go, that's dumb, that's stupid, and they move on. They degrade your ideas. I talked about this quote in just a couple videos ago, but it's so true. If you want to kill a big dream, you tell it to a small mind. And that is perfectly how a small town works. That's why I believe it's hard to really create a good relationship with people that share these maybe a little bit different ideas or beliefs than the mass of the people around you, because you don't know who might share this idea because they're too afraid to project it into the world. So sometimes you think, man, am I the only person in this town that thinks like that? And it could be something that you truly believe because nobody else is saying it. Therefore, it's hard to find a person that agrees with you. That's my quick little review of The Pearl by John Steinbeck. If you're interested in reading some Steinbeck, but you don't want to take the time to sit down and read a 600+ page book like East of Eden or 500 page plus book of like Grapes of Wrath, I think The Pearl is a quick, easy read, and it encapsulates what's great about John Steinbeck and his style of writing. And for just over 100 pages, it's a pretty good, thrilling story. I think it's a little bit cliche. I think it's a story as old as time. I don't think it's his greatest work creative-wise, and I think John Steinbeck, where he excels the most is in his great detail. He sets a scene amazingly. He uses these words to describe in such a depth that I haven't found like in a bunch of writers, say like East of Eden. He takes a couple pages just to set the scene, okay? And that allows you to really put yourself in the times, in the setting, rather. So I suggest it. It's not the greatest book I've ever read, but it was a fun little read yesterday before the gym. So go pick it up. Go pick it up. You can get it on eBay, or if you go to a used bookstore, it's probably there. It's super cheap. So nonetheless, you guys know the drill. I will talk to you tomorrow. Peace.